Okay, so yes, welcome to Yudong Tan, who's joining us today all the way from his homeland in China, where actually he's currently spending a few days in quarantine because he's just traveled back from the United States. So welcome, Yudong. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's start by talking about the situation in China. Obviously, I mentioned there are still there are still clearly strict rules around traveling, particularly internationally in China. Just give us a bit of an update about what the situation is in China in terms of traveling around and COVID restrictions.
Yeah, sure. So traveling inside China is pretty open. There are like outbursts, some here and there, now and then in some cities, but overall, people can travel around China. There's not much problem so far. But if you want to cross border, if you want to go outside of China, and then when you come back, you have to stay in a hotel for like 2 weeks for quarantine. I think that's I would say that's that is a reasonable restriction if considering the pandemic outside of China and in China. I think that is not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think? What are the prospects of that international travel opening up more? Is that imminent? Do you think? Do you think the authorities are looking to open things up internationally?
Well, for China, no, I don't think the cross-border travel will be open soon. Currently, probably we are looking at least at earliest time, probably it's like the first half of next year, hopefully, but not in the near future.
Okay, let's talk about trip and the pandemic, and if you just give us some thoughts about what Trip as a company has learned from this pandemic. It's obviously it changed everything very quickly, almost overnight, particularly in terms of travel.
Right.
What is Trip taking out of this pandemic that you will stick with for the long term?
Yeah, sure. So the pandemic actually hit a travel industry very hard. Trip is a travel company, so Trip also is affected quite a lot. But one good thing about Trip is that the main market of Trip is still China. So China domestic market actually recovers very quickly. In the early last year, the travel in China is already recovered. Just like I said a moment ago, there was like outbursts here and there, but overall the recovery is pretty good. In the past, like nearly 2 years, 1.5 years, during this pandemic, what we learned is that we need to focus on a few things, especially the reliability of the products, the flexibility, and also we need to focus on service, especially the automation of the service. First, the reliability. Like because of the uncertainty of the pandemic, there might be like lockdowns in different areas. The travel restriction might change from time to time. So I believe the travelers expect to know reliable information about like the travel restrictions, flight change. For example, the change of flights, delay of flights, or the cleanliness of the airplane or a hotel, something like that. So yeah. I think the company like Trip need to provide reliable information and also especially reliable service. Because in the emergency during the travel, I think the traveler aspire to reach some real person for help. So high quality customer service, reliable customer service is very critical during pandemic or even after the pandemic. Yeah. And also, next is flexibility, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you've gone through a few thoughts there about how customer expectations have changed around flexibility and reliability. Right. What's changed in terms of how customers expect to engage with a brand like Trip.com? Do they want to engage with you in a different way than before the pandemic? Have they got higher expectations about how you engage with them?
Yeah, I believe the customers' expectation on customer service and flexibility of travel products are much higher than before, especially for companies like Trip. because Trip has a very good brand awareness in China, probably not that well outside of China, but in China it is a big brand. So customers expect high quality services from Trip. They expect a very reliable products. They expect like a certain level of flexibility. So I believe during this time, these a few things are more valuable than before. So a customer probably they want they are willing to make some trade-off between price and these things I just mentioned: high quality service, reliability, and flexibility. That is my understanding.
Yeah, and have they come to sort of expect quicker answers to questions? Do they want to speak to somebody more, or are they happy to use a bot or a mobile phone to get the answers to the questions that they have?
Yes, that's for sure. That is the customer service. Actually, since the first day when Trip is founded, we take customer service as a cornerstone of the company, as a key competitiveness. That is proved during the pandemic. Actually, in the very beginning of the pandemic, we received a huge amount of the service request. That gave us a hard time, and also makes us realize how important high quality customer service is. So so during the past 2 years, we invest even more on the customer service, not only on the people, but also on the technology, on the automation of the technology. We are trying to automate a lot of service process to make it more user-friendly and also more smoother. And also we adopted a lot of like AI technology and machine learning technology to automate the whole process. Yeah, that helps a lot.
And do you think the customer is now looking at the technologies that firms have, and the better they are, the more confidence they have in that brand, the more trust they have in it because their technology works better? And if they find a brand maybe where the technology doesn't work quite so well, they don't have the same level of trust and confidence.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. Right now, just give you an example. Right now, we use the AI chatbot to serve nearly 60 to 70% of our customer requests. Of course, those most of those are routine and simple requests, but that accounts for about 60 to 70%. That provides a very similar experience to human customer service. So I believe only a few of technology-driven OTAs can do that. Trip is definitely one of it. That help us to win the loyalty of customers. Yeah.
You've talked about some of the technologies clearly that you're going to be looking at, but what has changed because of the pandemic? What kind of technologies is Trip.com looking to focus your resources on developing? Maybe there's new technologies you want to bring into the business, or there's things you were doing before that you're going to do more of.
Yes. First, I just want to mention the automation of services, just like also mentioned briefly. Take flights as an example. It is not easy to automate the change and the refund requests from customers, because that involves not only the OTA companies, but it involves the interaction between OTAs and airlines and also GDSs. That needs a lot of effort between like different players in this industry. In the past like 5 or 6 years, we already invested a lot, but still there are a lot of things to do, especially in for example, in international flights. That is one area we want to focus on. The other area is AI-driven services. Like I said, we want to understand customer service more accurately and also more quickly by using the large user data we have collected in the past decades. So that needs a lot of cutting edge AI technology. We are also working on that as well. Yeah.
Okay. You're a software engineer by trade, and you've got experience outside of travel as well as travel in your background. How has technology itself changed to make the things that you want to do more easier these days? Is technology a better enabler of the things you want to do, or are there still significant challenges, at the technology level to enable it to develop it so that you can do what you really want to do for the customer?
Well, definitely technology is a bigger enabler for the industry, but still there are a lot of things to work on. It is not like everything is already there, right? We still need to innovate, especially just like I said, if we want to automate the service. That is not easy to do because we need to use, for example, we need to use natural language processing technology. We need to use like deep learning technology to understand customers' intention, and also to find the solution automatically. That is not easy work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, you referenced earlier on, Trip.com is a really well-known name in China, not so well-known in parts outside China, but it's changing, and that's growing rapidly. And you've got big ambitions to become, a significant global player. This focus on customer service has been one of those challenges, because every culture, every country maybe has a different expectation on what is customer service. Some things will be universal, but there'll be nuances. So how does Trip.com approach the challenge of offering great customer service for everybody at such scale?
Yeah, there are two folds. First, we want to replicate our successful experience in China. So Trip actually is nearly the first company that adopt the very scientific methodology to customer service. For example, we adopted Six Sigma methodology to manage the customer service team. That has been very successful in China. We want to replicate that experience outside of China. We believe at a very large scale, this experience is universal, not only for people in China, but for people over the world. That's one fold. The other side is that we also understand there are differences between different countries. Different people might have different priorities when they approach customer service staff. So we also want to localize the service. We want to customize the service process for different countries, different culture. That's why we build a call center not only in China, but all around the world. The first overseas call center of Trip is located in Edinburgh. I think we built that call center back in 2017, and then in the past 4 or 5 years, we built a couple of other call centers in Japan, Korea, Philippines. We want to serve the people in their own language in 7 days and 7 days in a week and 24 hours in a day. So that is two folds we want to address the customer service challenge over the world.
Yeah, and I suppose it's about collecting that insight and data into the customer behavior, and if you know what the customer wants, clearly you can be there to provide that when they need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about the aviation. You work in the flights division at Trip.com. Let's talk about the aviation sector in general. Clearly massively hit by the pandemic. Absolutely directly, flights being grounded, and talk of many years of recovery ahead for the aviation sector. What do you see as the key challenges for that sector? Because clearly that sector, how well that does really does impact on the industry as a whole, and the industry does need a vibrant and viable aviation sector going forward.
I think, in my opinion, I can see at least two challenges that the aviation industry need to address. First, they need to recover travelers' confidence. I just came back from United States last week. I take a flight from San Francisco to Shanghai. It takes about 15 hours. So in a very narrow space, especially in this pandemic pandemic time, it is a little bit scary, you know. So in order to recover travelers' confidence, I think the airline companies need to provide transparency of information. They need to provide very reliable services, and also in order to accommodate customers' needs, in order to accommodate the uncertainty of their travel changes, they also need to provide flexible policies like refund and change policies. That is one challenge I can see. The other challenge probably is customers' behavior could change after a pandemic, because like technology for remote work is so improved in the past 2 years. So the travelers' willingness of travel probably will be affected, especially for business travel. I believe the needs for business travel after pandemic will be reduced quite a lot. So, but that part actually is a big source of the profit for airlines. So the airlines probably need to figure out how to recover the business people's willingness to travel.
Yeah, that seems like one of the big challenges, isn't it? That those high-value business travelers who always turn left when they get into the door are maybe going to be fewer and far between, and that really underpins the financials of many airlines, isn't it? So that there's going to have to be a sort of maybe a refocus on leisure.
Yeah, that could be a solution.
Yeah. And what about partnerships with OTAs and other trade bodies? You know, I suppose airlines have always had this dilemma between going direct and going through third parties. Has the pandemic changed that equation, do you think? Will they become slightly more reliant on third parties to provide the customer service that they know you can provide, while they focus on other areas?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I believe airlines should collaborate with OTAs even more after pandemic, especially for in global markets, because probably in airlines domestic markets they have a advantage. They have loyal customers, but in the market that is not their home country, I believe they should collaborate even more with the OTAs in order to improve their brand awareness, improve their volumes, things like that. Especially like OTAs like a Trip, we're not only a distribution channel, we also provide a very reliable customer service for local people, where the airlines cannot really do in a foreign market.
Yeah, and I suppose they've got to be flexible with their scheduling, because when places that you want to go to close down and open up again at a moment's notice, you've got to be flexible in your own operations. It's not everyone wants flexibility these days, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Just before we finish up, just a quick thought on the future. Yudong, we don't want to dwell too much on what's gone on the past 18 months. Hopefully, we think it's sort of getting to the point where it's behind us now. Especially, we know the situation in China, as you pointed out, but particularly in Europe, we're looking forward to restrictions easing even more so as we move into 2022. and beyond. How do you see the future? What gives you confidence that the bounce back is coming and will come sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I'm still very optimistic about the travel industry in the future, because I believe exploring the unknown world is an instinct of human beings. Like, people like to travel because it provides a unique experience that cannot really be replaced by anything else. It cannot be digitalized. It cannot be replaced by something virtual. Like, people have to go to the real place to enjoy the good things, to enjoy historic sites, things like that. That's the value of the travel. So I believe no matter when a pandemic is over, the value of travel is always there. And also, if we look back in past 2 years, what happened in China? Like I said, there are sporadic outbursts, right? And then the lockdowns of a few cities. Yeah. During the time of outbursts, our business is affected. But as soon as the lockdown is lifted, as soon as the outburst is under control, then the travel demand bounce back very quickly. That is what we have observed for 2 or 3 times. So that gives me a very strong confidence that people are still willing to travel. The demand, the aspiration is still there.
Yeah. And do you think that means that the return will come maybe more quickly than people fear? There's been various predictions about how many years it will take for the industry to recover. Do you think that maybe we're being too pessimistic and the recovery will be quicker than we fear?
I think that probably changes from country to country. I believe at this point, I think probably like United States and Europe probably will recover sooner in terms of the cross-border travels. Yeah. But for Asian countries, I believe because the culture-wise, Asians are more like conservative. They are more cautious. So I believe the cross-border travel for Asians probably will come back a little bit later. But still, I believe the future is bright.
Yeah. And like you say, it's still very unclear what the long-term plan is for places like Australia and New Zealand, which are very much closed to visitors at the moment.
But I heard the news that Australia has a plan to open border probably by the end of the year, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Our time is up, but I'd like to thank you for joining us today from quarantine. I hope you kind of enjoy the rest of quarantine before you're eventually released.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that for us today, and we wish you all the best, and maybe one day we'll see you over in the UK at some point. So thanks very much for joining us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.